Hopefully you've had a moment to try to determine the empirical and molecular formula of caffeine. I'll walk through the solution now. So I'm going to actually start with the molecular formula and then try to figure out the most reduced form I can represent it as, and that'll be my empirical formula. So I've got a lot of atoms here, so I'm going to color code them because I'm a pretty visual learner. I'm going to make my carbons green. We'll make them easier to count. So let's count them as we color them. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, I've got 8 carbons. Let's do nitrogens next. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 nitrogens. All right, let's do oxygen. 1, 2. That's it. All right, cool. I've got 2 oxygen atoms. And last but not least, let's do our hydrogens. There's always seems to be the most hydrogens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think that's it. All right, so from this now I can build my molecular formula. And now the order in which you put the elements it's not important to me right now while you're learning this, but especially as you get into organic chemistry, we have some conventions that just make it easier and more likely to be able to recognize molecular formula. We typically start with the carbon first, but depending on if something's an acid or a base, the hydrogens kind of move around in different places. So I wouldn't put a huge amount of stress on yourself about getting the order perfect right away. I always start with carbon and then hydrogen, and then I do my nitrogen and oxygen. I kind of go by electronegativity. So I'm going to write this as carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. That's my order. And now I'm using the number of atoms as my subscript. So I have 8 carbon, I have 10 hydrogen, I have 4 nitrogen, and I have 2 oxygen. So that is my molecular formula. So now the question for my empirical formula is, what is the smallest whole numbers that I can have that represent this ratio? And so I'm going to look for my smallest number and divide by that. So it's oxygen, right? So I'm going to divide everything by 2 because oxygen, I have 2. That'll make oxygen 1. I can't have less than 1 atom, right? I can't slice it in half. So I always need to make sure that I'm representing my chemical formulas with whole numbers. So when I divide everything by 2, I'm going to get 4 carbon, 5 hydrogen, 2 nitrogen, and an oxygen. And that is my empirical formula.